We feel it cold because it's 5 degrees and it's rather cold. No, we swim even if it's snowing. The rainbow. A pot of gold on the end of it. I don't know if it's this one or this one. You build up a need for this kick. And if you sit at home and you look at the weather, no, I can't go today. It's not a good day. Just like that. It's the peeling, massage. It's so nice. The older ladies, they do this ritual every day. So we like it, enjoy it. It's so beautiful. I was going to offer you to touch me, but before and after. No, but it's getting very soft, especially when you use the coffee.
Some people ask, oh, go you shower when you go home? No, I don't feel like it.
We have to keep the salt water on the body. You know, the salt sensation and the minerals from the seaweed is staying on our bodies when we go home again.
That's why we are so well preserved.
That's right. The secret for youth is that you rest in your own age. You can do it in different ways. This is our way. The main thing is the wellness you feel. The fun is an extra profit we get. We didn't know each other from before. We just met here, most of us. But it's about building friendship as well. When you are old, like I am, you see the life going up and down all the time. Small things make you glad. The weather, the sun, the rainbow, small things all the time make you happy.
Coffee, oh, nice, very nice.
After the swim, it's the best one.
This is homemade, you know. You have to be satisfied. I am. Completely. That's my coffee and my friends.
I wouldn't go back in age.
Good to be alive, yeah, absolutely.
Some of you may notice that I shared that on my Facebook page yesterday. I just fell in love with this video. And there is a reason why this is my introductory video, besides that I just like it. But I'll get to that later. But just let that sit with you a little bit, the beauty of that video. Okay, so I get to be the fortunate one who gets to introduce you to our new sermon series. And this series is called God's Calling for My Life. And this one is based on the 4th point in our vision statement. And so this point is we are equipping every person for a significant ministry by helping them discover the gifts and talents that God gave them. So in this topic is the idea that each and every one of us is called, not just to believe in God, not just to show up on a Sunday, but that each one of us is called to resemble God and his creativeness in giving back to others and in drawing others closer to God. So why is that? Why I feel like this is a need that we have. Sometimes we don't like to acknowledge that. Sometimes we just want to kind of be a bystander or let somebody else do it. But I think that if we really look inside of ourselves, it's actually a need that we have. And that is because God designed us to be co-creators. This is a kind of a radical concept that you won't hear in a lot of places because God is God. God is the creator. So how can we create? It almost sounds sacrilegious to be a co-creator with God, because that would be putting ourselves at the same level as God. But actually, God designed us that way. I have a few quotes that I want to start off with to share about this. This first one is by Reverend Moon, and he's talking about God's original plan for human beings, for Adam and Eve. If they had refrained from eating and observed heaven's commandment, Adam and Eve would have perfected their character and stood as equal co-creators with God, their creator. Furthermore, they would have taken dominion over the creation and become lords of the universe, enjoying eternal and ideal happiness. So that's a pretty big thing to say. But it reminds me that in our faith, we're encouraged to be owners, not renters or employees of God, to do his menial tasks, but that God wants a different kind of relationship with us. We maybe haven't experienced that eternal and ideal happiness because we still have the fallen natures. We still have the problems in this world that stem from Adam and Eve's first mistakes. But that doesn't change what God's original hope for Adam and Eve were and what God's hope for us is now. This reminds me that in our faith we're encouraged to be owners. And this word also is a little bit unique. We talk about it a lot in our faith, to be an owner. Actually, just a few years ago, Reverend Moon's wife, Mrs. Moon, gave us a motto for the year 2014, and that motto was, "Let us become the true owners of Chunilguk, who practice true love and resemblance to our Creator, the Heavenly Parent." If you're not familiar, the word Chunilguk is a Korean term, and translated, it means one heavenly nation, or in more simpler terms, bringing heaven to this earth. So let us become the owners bringing heaven to earth, who practice true love and resemblance to our Creator, the Heavenly Parent. This is another quote by Reverend Moon. "Everything is to unite in oneness of mind. The eyes, the nose, everything else should become one in mind. Body and mind should be as one, as should man and woman. The life of an owner of Chunilguk should become one mind, one in mind. The people should achieve oneness of mind as desired by their king, become of one heart with the presidents of the world, then with God, the president of heaven and earth. When this comes to pass, the world will become one nation, and that united nation will not be someone else's, but ours." Something he mentions here is that we need a oneness of mind to become an owner. I think for a lot of us, our experience is that we're a little bit torn. We don't always have a oneness of mind. We're torn between what I want right now to make me happy in this moment and what I know is more valuable for me in the future. Or we're torn between our different desires. We're kind of in a limbo. Sometimes we're going one direction and then we kind of get pulled back and go a different direction. But when we're stuck like that, we really can't take definitive action. It's kind of a selfish space. It's hard to be an owner. So if this resonates with you and it makes sense, that's great. If not, that's okay too. It's a process. But one thing that I do want to mention is that as we're talking about being equipped for a ministry, taking on resembling God's characteristics and ministering to others, You might feel like, oh, I have to be doing that right now because the pastor says I should be doing that right now. That is not the case. What I want to impress is that that is a goal for us in our life. That at some point, whether you're ready to take it up right now, or whether it's in next year, or in 5 years, or 10 years, God's hope for us is that we get to that point where we become a co-creator. But it's a process. All right? You don't have to perfect your character to begin a ministry. You don't have to be this complete oneness of mind and body and everything. But we do need to work on it, and it takes some maturity. So that is why we had our first 3 topics in our vision statement. I want to go over those real quick to remind you of this is the process that we go through. The first one is we are a place where people from all walks of life can find love, acceptance, inspiration, guidance, purpose, joy, and fulfillment. Then we are, there we go. We are every person, I think I missed one. The second one is about how we are a church that isn't a church, but a family where the experience of God's love and grace abounds. Okay, so that's number 2. 3, we are every person growing to spiritual maturity through studying God's word, prayer, making devotions, small groups, and taking on a ministry to care for the needs of and give to others. So I don't know if you've noticed as we've been giving these sermon series, but they kind of build off of one another, right? If you're a person coming into our church for the first time, we're not going to ask you to take on a ministry or to start a small groups or even to start making devotions. The first thing that we want you to experience is that you experience God's love and acceptance, God's unconditional love for each and every person as his child. And then leading on to inspiration and then ideas for your life and what direction you want to go, which leads to purpose, joy, and fulfillment. Also, that you experience not just coming into a church building and the process of a church service, but that you get the experience of a family. Because whether or not we get that in our own family, God wants that for each one of us, because that's where God can dwell most fully, in a family. And then leading through studying to prayer, beginning to make devotions or conditions, or what was Dr. Hentrick called it? Spiritual posturing. Attending and then maybe leading small groups and then leading up to taking on a ministry. So there's a process in this. So if you feel a little bit overwhelmed by the idea of a ministry, that's okay. Find where you are at in this whole process of things and work there. But we do need to grow. So some people feel God's calling on their heart from a very young age. I met a lady, she lives a couple of blocks away by Cheltenham Elementary, and she told me that when she was a little child, that she had been to church a few times and she thought it was fun, and she decided that she was going to create a Bible study. She was like 8 years old. And so she went around to her neighbors, knocking on the door, say, "Hey, can your kid come over to my Bible study? We're going to do it on my porch." And she had like one kid come over, and I think she could barely read, but it was like she just felt like that was something that she should do. And she said it was interesting because even though her life took her many different directions from that point, she felt she was led right back to that part where she wants to share the Bible with people. And whenever I come by, she's like, "I was watching this pastor on this television station, and he was talking about the true meaning of this word, and what do you think?" And it's like she's doing Bible study with anybody who comes by her door any day of the week. And so I feel like that she, from a very young age, knew the calling on her heart. I don't think most of us are like that, but some of you may have had that experience. Some of you maybe are just discovering that. Maybe when you reflect on your life up to this point and you're thinking about your life going forward, you feel a calling to a certain direction, whether it's something specific or just something general. And maybe you have no idea. That's okay too. But once we really know who we are and what our purpose is, then we can start to become an owner. And we can give to others, and we can minister in a unique way that God has equipped us for. So this is what's leading me into my topic for today. And my topic for today is recognizing how God has equipped me for ministry. And this is where my video comes in. So somebody shared this video on Facebook yesterday, and I could just see a little caption, and it said something about, yeah, it's 5 degrees outside, but if you think it's too cold, then it's too cold. But it's, and I was like, okay, this looks like something I want to watch, So I clicked it, and I just experienced this video, and I experienced a little bit of the heart and the life of these older ladies. They're from the Faroe Islands, which is between Iceland and like Denmark, England, and I just fell in love with it. I really felt uplifted from watching that video, and I felt like I received something that I wouldn't have gotten anywhere else if I hadn't seen this video. So I took the bait and I clicked on the link that led them to their other page with more videos, and I saw that they're looking for donations so that they can do this full time. And actually, I was really hesitant to watch any of the other videos because I thought, what if I'm disappointed? Or what if there's some hidden agenda in these videos that I'm gonna feel like I didn't actually want to see? Because all I want was what I just saw. I feel like sometimes we're kind of, people lead us on with something to try to get us to do something else, and I didn't want that. I just wanted to be filled up. But I did it anyway. I was like, okay, if I could find more videos like this one, I'll watch them. So I started clicking, and I watched the next one. The next one was about this lady from the Faroe Islands who, she was saying how, where you grow up, you kind of receive what nature gives you, and you make your life out of it. And if you're in Africa, it might have to do with elephants and tigers, or if you're in the Arctic Circle, it might be about whales or polar bears. But for me, all we have is fish. And so as a child, she loved dolls, and she loved role playing, like as a mother with children. But she didn't have dolls, so she would go down to the wharf and she would catch little fish, and she would wrap them in a paper, which was like a blanket, and she'd put them in her stroller, and she'd push the fish around. But she was so disappointed because she couldn't get them to close their eyes and sleep. And as she said, after about 3 days, they would start to smell, but I would just go down and catch some more, and they would be my babies. But it inspired her, and she became an artist. And so she captures these really beautiful, detailed, she makes these beautiful prints of fish painting and sea life, and she has published these books of art of the coral that's in the ocean nearby, and there's just nothing else like it. And it began with her beginning. So that was the second one I watched. And then I kept watching. I watched probably 8 or 9 of them. And each one I just felt was so special, and I felt like I could see a unique aspect of God's character in the people that they were interviewing. They're not all perfect people. I'm sure they have their own mistakes or things that they wish that they didn't have about them, but I loved how these videos could bring out the original nature of each one of God's children and display it in such a beautiful way with the cinematography and the music and everything. So then I watched a video that was made by there's 4 friends doing this together. One of them is a producer, one of them's the cinematographer, one of them makes the music, and one of them edits the videos, I think. and I was watching their video, and they were making a plea to help fund their projects so that they can do it full time. But I was watching them, and I was listening to the passion in their voices of how they love so much what they're doing, and that's all they want to do because they feel called to do it. And I thought, I don't know if they know this, but this is their ministry. And they've found it. They have found exactly what God has put on their hearts, whether they recognize it as God or not, and they are doing it. And it really made me realize that the word ministry can be a little bit misleading, because ministry makes you think of minister, which may maybe help you think of pastors or a reverend or something. But God isn't calling every one of us to do what Mike and I is doing. Each and every one of us is a unique representation of God's character and has something unique to offer to this world. Mike and I could never make such beautiful videos. They have been equipped by God for specific ministry, to do something that nobody else can do in just the same way. So it made me think that each one of us is uniquely gifted and positioned to bring God's love to people. And it might be people that, no matter how hard Mike and I try, we could never reach those people. But you have been equipped by God to reach certain people in your life. In our vision statement, I realized it says, it's way at the front, but it says, we are equipping each person to do a ministry. And to some degree, that's true. Mike and I want to help equip you. We want to provide the support and encouragement if you feel called. We can provide some resources. But really, we're only doing a small bit of it. God is the one who has equipped you and will equip you. But how do you know what your calling is? How do I recognize what my calling is? How can I know what gifts or talents that God has given me and what direction I should go in? How do you find it? I found a few questions. I found a website of this person who helps people to find their callings. And there's a set of questions that she asks every person. And I'm going to share those with you. I'd like you to think about them a little bit because I feel like it can help kind of put you in a direction. These questions are, if you could spend the rest of your life doing or talking about one thing, what would it be? So I think you know some people like this who they've got one thing that they're zeroed in on and they talk about it and that's all they think about or talk about or do about in their life. That's obviously a passion of theirs. It doesn't have to be constant, but I think that if you reflect, you can find something that you feel passionate about, and that if you were to get into a conversation about it, you could really go deeper and deeper and deeper. Maybe you're passionate about the value of education for children. Maybe you're passionate about people's health and the future well-being of their lives. Maybe you're passionate about bringing God's words to people. Maybe you love to build things and engineer things. Maybe you love cars. But it's different for every person. Second question is, your life experience has rendered you an expert at something. So at what are you an expert? And you might think, well, I don't have a fancy career. I'm not a doctor or a surgeon or a nutritionist. Or this doesn't necessarily refer to your career that you are an expert at. It says your life experience has rendered you an expert at something. Maybe you have learned how to get out of debt from a difficult situation, and you know how to do that. Maybe you're passionate about the stewardship of creation, and you've learned how to minimize your waste and take care of the creation better. Maybe you've learned how to heal from trauma. Maybe you've had some traumatic experiences in your life, but even through those, whether it's through prayer or God's words, you found a way to heal from those. Maybe you've invested tons of energy into excelling at cooking or fitness or parenting. A lot of these things, to us, like I think I'm a pretty good cook. To me, that's just, my mom was a good cook. That's just kind of part of my life. But I know there are a lot of people out there who wish they had my skills. But you have those too. What to us might seem commonplace or nothing special, there are people who are craving for the wisdom of what you have. Next question is, what do you love and what do you hate? And these questions are together because they're often two sides of the same coin. If you say, I love things that are uplifting and positive and help you to overcome challenges, but I hate things that make you feel like a victim or bring you down or are negative, then maybe your calling is something along the lines of, I want to help people rise out of difficult circumstances and see the best in every situation and what they can contribute. You know? Maybe for myself, I think, what do I love? I love being in nature. I love the peace of nature. I hate feeling claustrophobic and stuck in the city and breathing pollution. It's two sides of the same coin. So what do you love? And also, what do you hate? Another question, what makes you feel alive? This is a topic that Mike talked about last week, this aliveness. When in your life have you really experienced feeling fully alive? And then also, what is in your hand? And this question means, what do you have right now that you can offer? Maybe you have extra finances. Maybe you have a flexible schedule and you have some extra time. Maybe you have a willingness to learn and you're just really good at picking things up and taking action on them right away. What are your assets right now? And then, if you were to kind of make a list of your answers to all of these questions, you would find inevitably that there are some common themes that go through all of your answers. And a good way to kind of picture that, I actually have a diagram of it, it's really cool. And you get rid of your outliers. There are definitely some outliers, because you might, in the answers, what do you love? I say, well, I love my cat. But, maybe that's not necessarily what your calling is in, unless you want to be a veterinarian. But so get rid of your outliers, but what is the common thing that pulls all these together? What is common in your life experience and what you love and makes you feel alive, what you like to talk about, and what you have available to you right now? This can lead you towards your calling or your ministry. In a lot of cases, this is something you already know. But if you don't, this can be helpful. And maybe this isn't going to tell you exactly what you should do. Sometimes I feel like, just tell me what to do. We're looking for this, like, what should my ministry be? It may not point directly towards it, but it can point you in the right direction. I find that just asking these questions can be incredibly helpful. I was just remembering that when I was working at Starbucks, like 10 years ago, I had a couple of kind of philosophical coworkers, and so when the business was a little bit slow, sometimes late at night, we'd start asking each other questions, and one of my coworkers asked me once, what makes you feel alive? I was like, well, it's not espressos. But I had to answer, and I didn't want to answer something I didn't mean. So I took a minute and I thought, and the times when I felt most alive that I could remember was when I was with somebody and we were looking into each other's eyes and we were sharing our deepest hearts, and I felt that I could really be there for them and that maybe I had something to offer them. And that after our sharing, or after our time together, that we both felt uplifted. And so I said, I think I want to help people. I think I'm most alive when I'm helping people and when I'm being with people, but I don't want to be a counselor. I don't want to be a counselor. I couldn't think of what I wanted to do. But just answering that question in words made me realize I want to be with people. I want to help people recognize God in their life. I want to help people. Surprise, here I am, But I didn't know that at the time. I didn't think, I want to be a pastor. That was definitely not what I would have answered. But somehow asking these questions, I feel like led me in the direction to where I could find out my ministry. So ask yourself these questions. So maybe you know what it is. Maybe you don't. Maybe you do know, but you just don't know how to do it. You don't know how you could ever actually accomplish what you feel called to do. I think that's a scary place to be in, to feel like God has called you to something and feel totally inadequate. Or that I've tried and I don't think I can do it. I don't know how I could ever possibly do this grand thing that God is calling me towards. Because I'll let you know something, God doesn't ask us to do something that we already know how to do. I'm calling you to wipe tables. I'm calling you to, drive the car around town a few times. God doesn't ask us to do small things. God is always going to ask us to do something that is just a little bit or maybe a lot of it beyond what we feel is in our reach. So maybe you do know your passion, but you might feel totally inadequate. The good thing is you're not the first. There's actually a really classic example from the Bible, and I want to share the story for you. You probably are familiar with this one. This is Moses in the burning bush. So in the Bible, this is in Exodus chapter 3, and God sets a fire in a bush, but it's not burning the bush. And then Moses notices this, and he says, I'm going to go check it out. And when God sees that Moses is approaching, he speaks out to him and says, this is the Lord your God. Remove your sandals and approach. And then God proceeds to tell him exactly what his calling is and what he should do. And it's a really big thing. You are to relieve the Israelites of the oppression from Egypt, and you are to take them out of Egypt to the land of Canaan, where I will make them my people. I can't imagine. He probably didn't have words. Moses wasn't good at words anyway. He didn't have words. And the whole next two chapters are of Moses trying to get out of this. He says, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? But then God says, I will be with you. And then Moses says, oh Lord, I'm not very good with words. I never have been. I'm not now. Even though you have spoken to me, I get tongue-tied and my words get tangled. Then the Lord says, well, who makes a person's mouth? Who decides whether people speak or do not speak, hear or do not hear, or see or do not see? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I'll be with you as you speak, and I will instruct you in what to say. And it goes on. Isn't there somebody else? And God says, no. Finally, Moses is flat out is like, no, I can't do it. But God says, okay, here, I'll give you your brother Aaron. He'll talk for you. I'll give you these signs. Here's this, throw your staff. It'll turn into a snake. It'll convince the Pharaoh. I'll tell you what to do. But nobody else can do it. I'm calling you. So what I really got out of this is that God will equip us. For one thing, we're already equipped more than we know. God called Moses because he knew that Moses had what it took. He had the will of iron somewhere inside to go through all the years of the wilderness and to lead the Israelites. But he didn't have everything. He didn't have good words. He didn't have a lot of confidence in himself. But God said, I'll equip you. We'll do it together. But what I also got out of this is that when God calls us to something, he can't call somebody else to do the same thing in the exact wonderful way that we would do it. When God calls us, he's specifically calling us. And if we're not entirely equipped, that's okay. We can work on ourselves and grow. We can work on those first 3 points of our vision statement. But also God will provide for what we're lacking in. And here's one more quote. Oh, missed that one. Okay. Last quote. God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work. And this is from 2 Corinthians 9:8. I'll read it one more time. God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work. Doesn't necessarily mean that we get everything we want all the time, but when we're doing a good work that's in line with our purpose, God will provide. So we're going to go more into this topic in the coming few messages, more into how to find support, how to kind of get your foot in the door, what it means to take on a ministry. But I want this to start kind of stirring things for you, to start thinking. You don't have to find a ministry by the end of the sermon series, but God is calling each one of us to a ministry. And so let this be the first step in our either starting it or finding the resources that we need, or just beginning to discover what that could be for us. And I'm going to finish there. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Parent, we love you. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. All these wonderful brothers and sisters, your children, Heavenly Parent. None of us are perfect. None of us are 100% equipped to do what you were called us to. But I pray that we can recognize what is good in us, what our original nature is, what is really and truly special in us that we can be proud of, not because we are great, but because you created that in us, Heavenly Parent, and that we can bring that out. We can let that light shine to this world. Heavenly Parent, there are many people who are looking for true meaning in their life, who are feeling stuck where they're at, who are despairing that they will ever have a true, loving, joyful experience in their life, Heavenly Parent. But no matter where we're at, you have created that spark within us, and I pray that we can discover that spark and we can fan the flames, and it can become a fire that brings light to this world and that really ultimately returns joy to you and multiplies goodness in our life, Heavenly Parent. Please be with us throughout the rest of this day and in our fellowship with each other. I pray that we can, like in the videos, that we can really see what is good in each one of our brothers and sisters. We can see how you have created each one of us in your image, and that we can carry that with us into the week, Heavenly Parent. I want to offer this service up to you now, and I pray this in my name, Michael and Adonia Hendrick of Blessed Angel Family. Amen and Aju. Thank you.